The boy who was never wrong. Some time ago, Lucas Robinson lived in England. He was exceptional, born to a British father and a Caribbean mother. He had the sharp wit of a lawyer and the eloquence of a poet. His intelligence wasn't just impressive, it was almost intimidating. His parents, both successful professionals, nurtured his intelligence and brilliance. His father, Charles Robinson, was a top corporate attorney, a man who never backed down in court. His mother, Vanessa, a celebrated author, had a way with words that could turn even a scoffing critic into something poetic. From a young age, Lucas learned a simple truth. To be right is to be powerful. To be wrong is to be weak. His teachers praised him. His peers admired him. He was the boy who always had the answer, who never stumbled, who always won. But winning came at a cost. When he forgot his best friend's birthday, he brushed it off. It's just a date. Who cares? Daniel doesn't. When his mother scolded him for his arrogance, he countered, "If I'm not wrong, why should I say sorry?" When he embarrassed a teacher in class, he wore it as a badge of honor. Lucas never apologized. Not because he was cruel, but because he genuinely believed he never had to, until the day someone challenged him. The arrival of Aisha Williams disrupted Lucas's perfect world. She was different. Not in the way people usually were, intimidated by his sharpness or eager to impress him. Aisha was confident but quiet, a girl who didn't need to prove her intelligence. The first clash came during a debate. Lucas made a claim about a historical event, the Haitian Revolution. He spoke with his usual certainty, citing a book he had read. Aisha, sitting calmly across the room, raised an eyebrow. "That's not accurate," she said. She was ready to debate him. Lucas turned to her, smirking. "Oh, enlighten me." Aisha's voice remained steady. "The book you're referencing misrepresented key aspects. The rebellion was driven by more than just economic oppression. There were complex racial and social dynamics at play." Lucas scoffed. "Think I know what I'm talking about." "Do you?" Aisha asked, her gaze unwavering. "Because I actually studied this from first-hand historical records," she said. The class was silent. The teacher watched with curiosity. For the first time, Lucas felt something foreign. Doubt. But instead of admitting it, he doubled down. "I think you're misunderstanding my point," he said smoothly, twisting his argument. Aisha didn't push. She simply smiled and turned away, as if she had already won. And that made it worse. By the end of the day, this whole school was buzzing. Not about Aisha's knowledge, but about Lucas's refusal to admit he was wrong. He told himself he didn't matter, but deep down, something had shifted. Lucas's world, once so stable, started to crack. He made an error in a group project but blamed her classmates. The group stopped inviting him to work with them. He got caught using his phone in class but argued his way out. His teacher's respect for him vanished. Daniel, his best friend since childhood, confronted him one afternoon. "You always do this," Daniel said, frustration in his voice. "You mess up and instead of admitting it, you twist it around. Do you even care about anyone but yourself?" Lucas felt anger rise. "That's not fair." Daniel shook his head. "It's the truth, and you just proved my point." Lucas didn't apologize. Instead, he walked away. By the time he looked back, Daniel had already left. One by one, people stopped engaging. Aisha no longer debated him. His teachers no longer called on him. His once wide circle of friends shrank until he was alone with his intelligence, an emperor in an empty kingdom. But he refused to see it. Lucas's father invited him to a prestigious networking event. "This is where leaders are made," Charles told him. "Don't embarrass yourself." Lucas walked into the grand hall, surrounded by CEOs, politicians, and scholars. He thrived in these settings. This was his battlefield. During a discussion, a senior lawyer referenced a landmark case. Lucas, ever confident, interrupted. "Actually, that case was overturned," he said. The lawyer, a man in his 60s with piercing eyes, tilted his head.
"Oh."
"Yes," Lucas continued. "I read about it in a legal analysis." The lawyer smiled.
"That's interesting, because I was a judge on that case."
The room fell silent. His father's expression was unreadable, but Lucas could feel the weight of his gaze. He wanted to argue, to twist the truth, but there was no escape. He had embarrassed himself in front of giants. That night, his father's words were cold and sharp. "You think intelligence alone makes you untouchable?" Charles asked. "You think you being right is all that matters? Real power comes from knowing when to admit you're wrong." Lucas had nothing to say. For the first time in his life, he had lost. The next morning, Lucas sat in his room scrolling through his phone. His messages were filled with unanswered texts from Daniel, conversations he had shut down, moments where he had let his pride win. He stared at Aisha's name in his contact, remembering the moment she had challenged him. His father's words echoed in his mind. "Real power comes from knowing when to admit you're wrong." That morning, sitting on the edge of his bed, his hands felt heavy as he typed two simple words to Daniel. He hesitated. His pride fought back, but he hit send. Then, slowly, he typed another message, this time to Aisha. The moment he sent it, a strange feeling settled over him. It wasn't weakness. It wasn't defeat. It was relief. Daniel, receiving the message on his phone, stared at it for a long time before a small, almost imperceptible smile crosses his face.
"I'm sorry."
It read. Aisha, receiving a text from Lucas, her brow raising in surprise as she reads.
"You were right. I should have listened."
Lucas walked into school the next morning, his posture lighter, no longer weighed down by arrogance. He met Daniel in the school hallway that afternoon and extended a hand for a handshake. After a moment of hesitation, Daniel took it, a silent agreement to start over. For the first time, Lucas Robinson, the boy who had never been wrong, had finally taken his first step towards something greater than winning. Growth. The end.